Welcome, Scorpio, to your in-depth weekly forecast for week commencing the 26th of February for the Sun or the Ascendant. Ever since the 20th of January, first with the Sun, followed on the 21st by Pluto, your modern ruler, there's been a big emphasis on the more emotional and feeling part of your situation. Now, last week, Venus and your traditional ruler, Mars, reached an exact accord in this part of your situation. If you're working from home, you're making some creative changes, redecorating, hoping to add to your family, or there's some gatherings to do with your close members of your family, all of that can bring a lot of positivity. Now, late last week, Jupiter, the planet of expansion and fortune in your sector of relating, forged a link with Venus. Now that goes on broadly through to the middle of this week, and that can create some uplift. It's possible that the things you're doing are going to create a lot of support and encouragement from someone close to you. But Mars and Jupiter get into a right angle this week, and that reaches its peak on Tuesday. But that's a much more complex influence. Basically, Mars and Jupiter, when they're together in a more challenging angle, like a square, can create a lot of impatience. Also, Mars in the fourth house can be a little bit defensive. Because Jupiter in the seventh house wants to think the best of others, or wants to receive the plaudits of others, if you're not necessarily getting the encouragement or recognition of what you're trying to do, and you're taking it very seriously, that could create that spark of frustration. Could also be that perhaps somebody is not necessarily quite used to the fact that there's been a big shift that's developing in your situation. Your natural mode or response has been to be a little bit guarded about your inner world. This is encouraging you in some ways to work with your inner world and to be more open with it, even though the fourth house, which has a strong Cancerian influence, can in some ways urge us to be quite protective. But because the host for you is Aquarius, that's where the open-mindedness comes. However, on Wednesday, first of all, early in the day, the Sun applies to Mercury, so the Sun moves forwards and connects to Mercury in Pisces. Mercury in Pisces is debilitated. Mercury likes precision. For its rulership of Virgo, details. For its rulership of Gemini, it's about quick moving conversations. So something could get said quite fluidly at the start of the day, and it could be very stimulating. But later in the day, whatever conversations you have can take on a more serious tone as the Sun steps forward and applies to Saturn. Saturn can be really good for us. The archetype that's out there, certainly on YouTube, is that Saturn is very much the bad guy and Jupiter very much the good guy. So it's very binary. Jupiter, after all, is the greater benefic and Saturn is the greater malefic. So there is something in it, but I think if you are having a conversation with someone, potentially a sibling, a neighbour, someone in your every world, having a text exchange, it is important to choose your words carefully, to say what you mean and mean what you say. But the urgency of that Mars-Jupiter right angle just cautions you not to rush something, or if someone does irritate you, doesn't quite hit the sweet spot in terms of encouragement or understanding your situation, try not to react. Could also be at the middle of this week a time when you're thinking about upgrading your tech. If you do work from home, creating a better space for it. I think I've mentioned that before. That's still a theme. But I also feel that Saturn could, in this conjunction, essentially with the Sun and Mercury, see you thinking also about your mode of transport. If you have been in the northern hemisphere and the weather's not been particularly helpful, this may be a little bit of a push to get up and be more active and move around more. But certainly the third house can be about quick moving conversations, but Saturn's just saying, and Mercury being debilitated, don't rush it. And Jupiter and Mars are saying, Don't get too frustrated if someone doesn't get where you're coming from immediately. Now, by the end of the week, the quarter moon in Sagittarius creates a 2-5 square. Whatever goes on this week, by the end of the week, you might be in the mood to spend a little bit of money, have a treat, indulge yourself a little bit. Absolutely fine, why not? But also, someone close to you may seek some financial support. And if it has become a little bit of a repetitive pattern, maybe with Saturn in your third house, this is the time to say, well, just hold on. Your financial situation is not my responsibility. It's been a pleasure being with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'd be honoured if you would subscribe. Also, if you'd like to ascend above this zodiac forecast and embrace the power of more serious astrology, if you give me 3 pieces of your birth date of time, date and place, or date and place, I can produce for you your life roadmap report. This will give you searing insights into the patterns that are played out in your life so far. You can get a much more intimate understanding of how these have affected your situation, but how you can work with them more effectively going forwards. In my special package of 30% off, you also get your 12 months transit. That's the moving planets in the sky interacting with your totally unique personal blueprint. Please see the link below for more.